South Africa's economy is in tatters and our unemployment rate has skyrocketed. COVID-19 has compounded both these factors with the rising costs of fuel, groceries, electricity and other expenses. Individuals have less disposable income available to them. What effect does this have on our economy and how is this further exacerbating the job situation? Our reporters this hour, Nobesuthu Hechana in Cape Town and Lethiwe Mdluli in Durban, joining us now for more. Good afternoon. Nobesuthu, good afternoon, Lethiwe. Let's start with you, Lethiwe, in Durban. You've been speaking to various people about their struggles. I mean, during this very difficult time, what have you been finding out? What are you hearing, Lethiwe?
Well, but then a lot of people are desperate for jobs. That I can tell you. I've been speaking to various people on the streets of Durban in different areas. I started off in Phoenix, where I spoke to a young lady who is basically running a small business after she lost her job in 2019. I also spoke to a few artists who are saying that because of COVID-19 and the pandemic and the COVID-19 regulations that have been put in place and being unable to hold gatherings in the country, they are basically struggling to find work or make means. I'm now joined by a young lady, though, who is basically running various businesses to just get by. Her name is Siyasanga Mzaza. Siyasanga, good afternoon. I want to ask you about some of the businesses or the side hustles that you currently have. How are you able to run so many different businesses all at once?
You make it work because really I don't have a choice because I did try to look for work, but there are no jobs, and I have a skill. I have skills, so I just decided to utilize the skills that I have to make means.
What are some of the businesses that you have currently, and how many are they?
Roughly 4. I sell satin bonnets and pillowcases and bedding and hair accessories. I make business cards. I have a food truck, and I do national hair consulting.
And since the pandemic, how have your businesses been performing?
Okay, for example, I had the business where I make wigs and the hair. I had to totally shut that down because borders closed and we couldn't get anything from China, so there was no hair for me to supply to people, so I stopped that. And then I started the satin one, which it picks up every month in, so it's not quite sustainable either. And then with the fruit truck, it usually works when there's events because people mostly hire it. I don't use it daily. And there hasn't been events, and if there are events, it's small events, so usually there's no catering with all the regulations, with COVID also, so yeah.
You also told me about going back to school and also having to juggle with that. Why did you decide to go back to school?
I decided to go back to school because what I am going to be doing at school is also going to be a business, because I have diploma in business management. So now I am going into fashion design and making clothes, because I realized it's one of most businesses that will never ever run out of money. People eat and people bath and people dress every day. So I do have a skill to make clothes, but I'm not a professional. And when you're not a professional, people don't really take you seriously. So if I am a professional and I then make clothes, that will also be another income to my businesses.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Siyasanga.
Thank you so much.
So, but then that is Siyasanga Mzaza. She's basically explaining that she runs about 4 businesses just to get by. Some of her businesses were affected by the pandemic. She stopped selling hair because she couldn't get a supplier from China. So that's how she's been affected, but she's making do as she's trying to basically go back to school and find other ways to make money.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lethiwe Mdluli. Yeah, real effort there trying to make ends meet from and getting income from different streams. Let's go to the mother city now, Cape Town. Nobesuthu, you've been speaking to a number of people, different people, South Africans, ordinary South Africans in Cape Town, also expressing their experience currently. I understand one of the people you spoke to runs some households depending on social grant. What did they tell you?
Certainly, but then so throughout the morning I've been speaking to unemployed graduates who had to find other means to take care of themselves as well as to put something on the table for their family. And the first person that we spoke to earlier on this morning was a photographer who also runs a decor business. He says due to the regulations that have been imposed by government for the limitation of the number of people who can attend events, that business has been impacted severely. And of course, the photography side of his business has also been affected because people who would usually book months before, they now come to say we only have this certain amount of money, and because he needs that money, he has to take it. And we also spoke to a graduate, a person who studied biotechnology, who was telling me earlier on that because she was unable to find a job in her field and she didn't want to stay at home being depressed, so she now works as a person who sells insurance. And also we spoke to a graduate who has been forced to go back to school to further his education because he also hasn't been able to find a job, but him and his friends, they've managed to start up a food garden where they employed about 13 people who work there. And I spoke to a mother of someone who's not employed, and she was just telling us about her difficulties to run her household. She has to split her grant money to make sure that her kids, her family also get something. And this is what Katrina Adams had to say about how it's been difficult for her during the pandemic.
This time in COVID, is very bad. You know what? There's no work, and the money is so little that I only get a grant from 1,890. You know that. I must pay my rent. I must buy food. I must buy clothes for me. I must support my children, helping them. I must buy electric and all that. So the money is very little. So that COVID, it had a real impact, as you see. And the work situation is very bad. My daughter was working for a couple of years, and since that time she support me. She buy food, she buy clothes for me, anything, medicine, anything. You see, and now with the COVID, everything is bad, as I said, and we can't survive. We can't survive. Truly, we can't survive with that little money.
Yeah, tough indeed. Nobesuthu, what kind of measures have you had families are putting in place just to get by, or just to put food on the table?
Brother. So she was also telling me that she depends on her neighbors because she can't afford to make food, or rather to run her household all by herself since her daughter lost that job. And she was saying that there was a period where she was sick, she couldn't afford to buy medication, so she had to rely on her neighbors where they would supply her with the little medication that they had, whether it being med lemon or any painkillers. But this is what Katrina also had to say.
I was sick. I was very sick. I don't know if I've got COVID, but I went to the day hospital for my tablets, and then turned back the next day. Asked her, I haven't got money to buy tablets or what. My neighbor gave me some medicine to drink. The other neighbor gave me a med lemon, and so just to carry on. But you see, this time it won't work for me, man. It's very tough. It's very, very tough. But as I said, I carry on. Even I've got now in that situation, As I said, now, I haven't got food for tonight to eat. I haven't got nothing. But as I said, as long as I've got bread and there's water, I've got everything.
Nobesuthu Hejana and Lethiwe Mdluli, thank you very much for this update on the Midday View about the money crunch that millions of South Africans are facing nowadays. And with the high unemployment rate, we just wonder when the economic downturn will end and the fortunes will improve. And here on the Midday View, we'll continue